Greetings. This is Justin Allen, the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system, and frankly, screw that. Sick of it, and it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take the measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked to the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help the nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, onto the episode. Hello, everyone. Today we'll be talking to Molly, who is a dual certified family and psych nurse practitioner practicing out of Massachusetts. Currently, she is working part-time in a large nationwide telepsych practice. She's wanting to start her own telehealth business, and she has seen the light in terms of how simple it really is to do. She's needing assistance on where to start in terms of getting the business up and running and how to navigate her situation with part-time work and a new startup. Hey, Molly, how are you?
I'm doing well, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for hopping on this call. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so bring me up to speed with where you're at. How long have you been a nurse practitioner for? And what kind of stuff you've been doing?
I started off as a registered nurse 30 years. I went back to school to be a family nurse practitioner. I've done multiple subspecialties, worked in occupational health, sleep medicine, primary care. Went back to get my postmaster certificate in psych a number of years ago, and I've been practicing in telehealth psychiatric care for the past year.
Cool. All right. So what made you do the family psych dual thing?
I'm seen as a dire need for psychiatric mental health services. I have family members that have some mental health issues. I always had an interest in it. And, with the opportunity was there, I was able to finagle going back to school and working. So it was a good fit. Gotcha.
Okay, cool. So have you tried to utilize both certifications at once, or are you just mostly just focused on psych right now?
I started off practicing telehealth as a family nurse practitioner. Once I became dual board certified, I was able to increase my revenue and my fees, which was great. So that's been more profitable.
Gotcha. So the family certification is just kind of just sitting there on the sideline right now?
Yes, that got me into this. And then the psych is actually flourishing at this point.
Gotcha. So your goal is to pretty much focus on that.
On the psychiatric, yes.
Okay. So you're doing this part-time telepsych work. Is there anything you want to talk about in terms of that goes? Are you going to, is your plan to continue doing this work while you get, a little part-time telehealth business up and running?
Yes. I mean, I have a good situation right now. It pays well. It's, works around my schedule. So it's flexible in that sense, but I'm getting the experience too. But I kind of want to add to that to see if I can maybe take off and do my own on the side.
Gotcha. All right. So your main goal here is to maintain your part-time job while getting a part-time telepsych practice up and running, basically.
Right. To supplement my income. Correct.
Gotcha. So let's just navigate this a little bit. So do you have a non-compete or a non-solicitation clause with this practice?
No, I don't actually. Nope.
Okay. Well, that's perfect.
I made sure of that.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. All right. So you don't have to worry about that. Fantastic. Okay, cool. And are you being paid as a W-2 or a 1099?
W-2.
W-2. Okay. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to get like just a basic LLC up and running. Okay. It can just be out of Massachusetts if you want, or it can be out of Wyoming. Doesn't really matter. All right. So get a basic LLC up and running, and then ask them to start paying you as a 1099. So that way they're going to be paying you, your full amount minus employment taxes. They might pay you a little bit more as a 1099. And then all that money is going to be basically funneled into your business bank account. And then you can use that money tax-free to start your telepsych practice. This will save you a lot of money.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, probably like 20, 30% easy of your income is just going, basically be thrown away at taxes. And so if you can funnel that money into a business, getting it started, you'll save yourself a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's probably going to be step number one for you. Do they do 1099?
I could ask them. It could be an option. I mean, I could ask them.
Okay. I don't see why
Might be.
not. I mean,
Yeah, I can see, I guess it's less on their end in terms of doing the tax preparation and the deductions, right?
correct. Yeah. And plus, I mean, you make your own schedule and that kind of stuff. So it should be justifiable for you to be a contractor.
Okay.
Yeah. I know most of those like nationwide telehealth companies, I mean, they just hire providers as 1099s.
I went with a W-2 because I thought it'd be easier. I don't have to worry about doing my own taxes and stuff like that. But
You know the difference between being taxed as an employee versus a business owner?
no.
Okay. So being taxed as an employee,
Mhm.
you're taxed and then you are paid. When
Okay.
you are a business owner, you are paid and then you pay your taxes later. So you get all the money and then you pay your
Okay.
taxes later. As a
Okay.
W-2, they take your taxes out first and they give you what's left over. And
Okay.
then at the end of the year, you hope to get a few deductions. You hope you get a little return back or something like that. That's what employees do. That's just what people have been brainwashed to believe how it should be. When you are a business owner, though, you get paid from the revenue of your business, where you get paid through your 1099. Okay, it gets sent to your LLC, and all that money is tax free. Then you can spend that money tax free on business expenses and whatnot, and various deductions that are afforded to you as a business owner. And then you pay your taxes, which will be a hell of a lot less than you were paying as a W-2.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
So, like, for example, when I was a W-2 working at an urgent care, I was making about, $140,000, $150,000 a year. I mean, it was a good job, good money, right? There's
Okay.
really nothing to complain about there. But
Right.
35, 40% of it was going to taxes, and I could do nothing about it. I started my businesses. I've got a few businesses up and running, some real estate, that kind of stuff. A few years later, my tax rate has gone down to like 15, 20%.
Wow.
And I make more money too. So as a 1099 contractor, it's basically the same thing. So all that money will come into your LLC and you spend it on business expenses. So like your internet, your phone, all these be paid tax-free through your business, home office write-offs. There's a lot of expenses here that you should be paying tax-free that you can't really do as a W-2.
Now, do I have to designate a portion of the proceeds of the 1099 earnings, or that can go 100% into the business account?
Just have it 100% go to the business account.
Okay. Okay.
The general recommendation is to keep 20 or 30% on the sidelines to pay your taxes with.
Okay.
But if you're going to be starting your own business, there's going to be a lot of expenses associated with that. And so you might find that at the end of the year, you don't really have to pay all that much in taxes anyways, because you've spent so much getting your business up and running and utilizing various tax deductions.
Okay.
Yeah. Super, super important to understand that concept. So number
Right.
one, be a 1099.
Now, in terms of starting the business, like it won't, obviously the first year you don't really see much profit. And it's going to take a lot of like getting started, figuring out the organization, stuff like that. Can I open the LLC with the intent of not being able to see patients for a time being? Or how does that work?
Sure. You'll have an LLC for anything you want.
Okay. Like,
Just have it
is
there.
it just have it? Okay.
Just
Okay.
have it there. It's fine. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I've multiple LLCs. So you can just have an LLC, just have it sit there on the sideline and just kind of wait to use it. That's completely fine. Yeah.
And then I don't know if I'm able to ask you about like malpractice. Like I have my own malpractice insurance as a provider. Now, do I have to get that in place, in the early stages of the LLC, or can I shop around for that once I start seeing patients?
Okay. So what's the policy you have now? Is it through the employer or is it your own?
My own. I have an individual.
You have an individual one. Okay. See, I mean, that's
Mhm.
even more justification for you to be a contractor. That should have been paid for tax-free through your business. But yeah, let me ask you this. Is that malpractice policy? Is it one of those policies that kind of just follows you for whatever you do?
Yes.
A global professional policy? Yeah.
Yes. And it covers like telehealth, coverage, stuff like that, cybersecurity, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So you should be able to just use that malpractice policy through your business. You shouldn't have to change anything other than calling them up and making sure that the LLC, that the business entity is added as an endorsement.
Add the name of the LLC on the policy in
Correct.
addition to my name. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're ready to rock and roll. That's it. So no need to buy a new policy, and that should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other question about the 1099 or like, your current job?
No, I think you answered that. I think you answered all of that. I just got to
Yeah.
see if my current employer would actually change that over. If not, then what would you suggest? What would be plan B?
Well, I mean, if they can, it is what it is. The problem is that you can only deduct, I think it's $5,000 of initial startup costs. So if you're a W-2, anything more than $5,000, you have to depreciate over a period of, I think it's like 2 or 3 years or something. So there's only a certain amount of write-off you can get from it the first year. So if you can't, you'll have to keep your budget around that $5,000 mark if you can.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, which is honestly more than enough. You're not going to need more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about telepsych practice. You can get something up and running for $5,000 or less.
Right. And then could you give any suggestions and plan on taking that course that you have coming up for the telepsych practice
Yeah.
setup? But what would you recommend in terms of like, I'm trying to work out of my home, but I want to have like a virtual address, like a registered agent. Can you give any suggestions on that?
Well, registered agent doesn't really matter. That's just for your LLC. I mean, you can name your kid as a registered agent. It doesn't make a difference. Okay.
Has to be somebody in my state, I heard. It has to be someone that can get the mail, stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah. So the registered agent, it has to be in the state the LLC is formed in. So if you're going to form the LLC in Massachusetts, then the registered agent needs to be in Massachusetts. I mean, you can go online on Google and just find a registered agent service for free if you want. I mean, or not for free, but I mean, they used to use like $100 a year or something. It doesn't cost anything.
Does it matter if it's not like in close proximity to me, or does that really matter? There's one I found that's like across the state, not close by.
It makes no difference.
Okay.
Yeah. I used my nephew's name as a registered agent one time and just use his home address. But it doesn't matter. Who cares? It makes no difference. Like, don't worry about it. I mean, as long as they can get mail, you're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't put too much thought into that.
And then in terms of once I start the LLC, do I need to get an attorney involved to kind of look things over for like a practice agreement or a business agreement? Do you think I can do that myself?
These things aren't hard to start. I mean, I honestly think you can just do it yourself. I mean, you could use an LLC creation service online.
Are they reputable though?
Well, of course they are. You go to Google and type in Massachusetts LLC formation company. There's usually like law firms that set up like these little LLC creation businesses, and they just create the LLC for you. They give you the operating agreement and everything. And it's like $300 or $400 and you're done.
Okay. Like a set fee and they can do it?
Correct. That's what I would do. That's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah. You can start it yourself if you want. You can go to the Secretary of State's website. You can go to the Massachusetts Secretary of State's website and just start one yourself if you want. It only takes 10 minutes. It's like $50. And then all you need is an operating agreement. You can go to Google and type in operating agreement, just find a basic template and just use it if you want. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal.
Like a generic template you can find?
Correct.
Okay. Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you use the LLC formation things, that they give you one. They take care of it all for you. So it's honestly worth the few $100s.
Sure. And what about in terms of, would you recommend like anything about trademarking, anything like the name, or not necessary?
Nah, I wouldn't worry about that until you get busy. And it also depends how big you want this to be. I mean, what's your vision here?
Okay. Well, it's small right now. We'll see how it goes.
Well, what are you envisioning? Like, what are you wanting to do exactly?
Well, I'm trying to find my niche. I'm working in a pretty specialized practice right now, and I have some ideas. I'm tossing around. I can see there's a dire need. There's a shortage of providers in my area. There's a long wait list, so I know what I'm going against. So I think I have that to offer, and that, the flexibility. I'm thinking of starting off as private pay since I'm working in a private pay practice right now. But I know that I might have to think about becoming credentialed with all the HMOs.
Yeah. I mean, cash pay psych works, as I discussed in the How to Start a Psychiatric Practice course. There's different kinds of psych practices you can start. You can start like a focused niche telepsych business where you treat just ADHD or just anxiety or, whatever it is. And it's more of a concierge model kind of a thing. And you can charge cash for that. But if you want to see, various different disease processes and a more diverse patient population, then you're going to need to get credentialed. I mean, you're just going to need to. So are you wanting to stay in your area?
Well, right now I have one state license. I was thinking of applying for other state licenses, but I don't really know the ins and outs of that. And,
And you just go to the Board of Nursing website for whatever state you want and just look what the requirements are. There's really nothing to it. I mean, if you want to stay regional, that's fine. It should work. And getting credentialed with Massachusetts insurance would probably be, a lot easier than getting credentialed in multiple states.
Right. And I've heard some of your podcasts, you mentioned like there's actually agencies that you can pay for to help, expedite that process. Do you recommend that?
For the licenses or the credentialing?
Credentialing.
Oh, God, yeah. You're going to be pulling your hair out, filling out all those applications and stuff. It is so tedious.
Okay.
Don't do that yourself.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
I've listened to some of your podcasts, have been really helpful in terms of like getting the word out there, like, sending business cards or just reaching out to, peers in my school that I went to, other physicians I may have worked with in terms of starting up for low cost advertising.
For sure. So if you're going to stay more regional, local, I mean, you could just get out, go to different practices, go to places where, they can refer you patients, hand out cards and brochures. I mean, that's super cheap. I mean, cards and brochures are going to cost you a couple $100. And you basically just have to get dressed up and pretty and go walk around and just hand stuff out.
Okay.
It works.
And then I know you mentioned you have multiple LLCs yourself. So in terms of offering like a 15-minute, free consultation, stuff like that, any recommendations for that?
Yeah, I think that a free initial consultation, especially for a cash-based practice, you kind of can weed patients out, so to speak. I mean, if you don't want to deal with train wrecks, you can kind of weed them out right at the start. And you can kind of sell them on the service. So, kind of convince them that it's a good idea and see what their needs are and that sort of stuff. So I think a free 15-minute consultation works great. I do it. And it's good for advertising too. People like free stuff. All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free and then other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioner sisters and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode.
And then in terms of just kind of what your ideas about virtual assistants, is it necessary to do it all myself?
At first, I think doing it yourself is more than sufficient. I mean, you're at home, you're working from home, you probably have a little bit of spare time. So, I think that if you can just do it yourself for a little while, I think it'll save you a lot of money. And then, once you start getting a little bit busier, that's when you kind of want to hire a virtual assistant. But to save yourself the money, if you're on a budget, the first couple months, you can do it yourself.
Okay. And then starting off just being like a solo provider initially and everything. I mean, I have the experience. Is it worth me paying the extra money to have the supervising physician? I mean, it's great to have someone to bounce questions off to and stuff like that. That in terms of, supervision for consultation and like covering me, say, once in a blue moon, I take a vacation.
You don't need one in Massachusetts, correct?
No.
Right? You're independent. I mean, that's just going to be up to your comfort level. I mean, if you feel like you need to pay someone to kind of be there on call for you, then you certainly can. It's going to eat into your profits. It's going to be an expense. So only you can answer that question.
Okay.
I mean, on call when you go on vacation and stuff, I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, you just be closed that week and, redo your voicemail saying this is a medical emergency, call 911.
Right.
If this is an urgent need, leave a voicemail,
Right. And what about like having like an answering service for after hours, something like that? I mean, this is envisioning once I get up and running, but what are your thoughts on that? Do you have something like that? Or you just have like a designated voicemail?
So I operate cash practices, so I don't need that. Okay. With an insurance accepting practice, part of the credentialing process is that you agree that you'll have, after hours line and, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of insurance companies will actually require that from you.
Oh.
As a cash practice, you don't have to do that. I don't. I've never had that.
Okay. So you don't need that with the cash practice. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. As long as in your voicemail you say, this is emergency, hang up and dial 911. I mean,
you make it sound so easy and so seamless.
It is easy. People complicate this. It's really not that hard.
And then Maybe you can just briefly just tell me the difference between, I'm not a tax person, like a tax ID versus an EIN number. I believe I need to apply for that after you get the LLC. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Tax ID or a federal EIN number, employment identification number. It's the same thing. So you just need to get one. If you go through one of those LLC formation companies, they'll get it for you.
Okay. And you need that in order to start up your business account, correct?
Correct. Yeah. It's kind of your LLC social security number where they can basically track you and file your taxes, all that kind of fun stuff.
And then like the operating agreement, did some research online and I watched some YouTube videos with some attorneys that talk about business, ins and outs. And they said you have to actually document that you have a monthly meeting, even if it's just yourself. Like, okay, I thought about purchasing a laptop for the business. I'm looking into stationery, something like that. Do you have to actually document that stuff?
It solely depends on the state that you form the LLC in.
Okay.
Some states don't require yearly minutes. Some states do. I've never heard of one that has to be monthly. I've never heard that. It's usually yearly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to have to just check with the regulations in Massachusetts if you form the LLC in Massachusetts.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Like my state doesn't require it, so I don't do it.
Don't do it. Okay.
And also, if something was ever to come up, you have a record of them, right? You should be able to open up that notebook and get the record.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you answered all my questions. This was very helpful.
Well, this was quick.
I know, unless you have anything you could suggest or any questions for me.
Well, with a telepsych business, I think the biggest thing for you here is going to be able to figure out what you're going to do in terms of the marketing goes, How are you going to get patients? Other than going out and handing brochures and stuff out, have you thought about how else you're going to do it? Have you thought about paid advertising or SEO or getting your website up and running? Or have you put any thought into any of this?
I have, and I heard you talk about how some of it can be pricey. Google, I guess, is kind of like, not the word, what's what I'm looking for. They're kind of picky as to if they accept you or something. Maybe I'm wrong.
Nah, for a telepsych business, you should have no problem at all advertising on Google. Okay.
Okay.
It's general medicine, basically. It's not like a super specialized thing like testosterone replacement therapy or opioids or whatever, so you shouldn't have an issue with it.
Okay.
So it should be pretty straightforward. I think if you're going to be regional and local, I really think you need to have a Google business listing. I really think that's going to help you a lot because, think to yourself here that you are a patient in your area and you're looking for psych care because you have anxiety or whatever, and they type in anxiety treatment near me or mental health near me or whatever. If they do that on Google, which they will, 90% plus of all searches online are through Google. So if they search that and you have a Google business listing, your listing will come up. Okay. And so that's really, really important. If you don't have one, then local people are going to have a really hard time finding you because most people go online anymore to search for this stuff.
Now, how does that work? Like, okay, say I do apply, pay for the service with Google. Like, what would make my company go ahead of somebody else's company? It goes alphabetical, who paid for it? How does that work?
Well, you don't have to really pay for it. It's going to be, basic SEO. So It's going to be based off of how many clinics are in the area, how much competition you have. And then it's also going to be based off of how many keywords are in your content. And so that's why you need to have a robust website that has lots of keywords for what it is that you do. So that's why a lot of times you'll see medical practices have blogs in their website.
Right.
The main reasons for SEO is just to help them rank higher on Google so they're seen faster.
What does SEO mean? I'm sorry. I don't know what that means.
Search engine optimization. It basically means you're just optimizing your website to, rank number one on Google.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on Facebook advertising? I think that could be a nightmare, or that could be good.
No, it can be a nightmare or it could be really, really good. You're not really going to know until you give it a try. It works fantastic for some people and other people, it's just kind of It's really not that great. I don't find it all that great personally for my men's health clinic, but I know someone else who has a men's health clinic and it works fantastic for them. So I think it really depends on your region. And I also think it depends on who you identify as your target market. Like, who's your patient? How are you going to get your ad in front of their face?
And you had mentioned you gave some great ideas in some of your other podcasts saying that maybe start advertising. You mentioned like in restrooms and like restaurants, even gyms.
Oh, for sure. For psychiatric care, I don't know how well that would do in a gym. I'm not too sure. I don't know how many people working out have anxiety or depression or whatever. So it's coming down to your target market. Who's your target demographic? That's really what you have to figure out. If you're going to do a cash-based telepsych practice, who is it that you're treating? Who is it that you're seeing? Do you know? Do you know who your target demographic is?
Middle-aged, men and women, ages 18 older.
Right. Well, that's pretty much,
Right.
90% of the population. So that's not a target demographic. I mean, a target demographic would be females between the ages of 35 and 45 who are single mothers. I mean, it has to be super, super specific.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you're going to be cash based, then you automatically have to change your target market. And people that work down at, the gas station don't have the money to pay you.
Right.
Your target market automatically is the top 20, 30% in household income.
Right. Sure.
Right. So where are those people hanging out in your area? Do you advertise there?
Okay.
So you really have to put some thought into, who it is that you're treating, who's your target market. It's so important.
And how much do you figure that takes? Like, what should I focus on in terms of expense wise? Because that's going to be my huge expense, my first expense.
You mean marketing?
Yes.
Marketing expenses? I mean, for a telemed, telehealth, telepsych practice, marketing is the number one expense associated with it. I mean, you have to get the word out because you don't have all the expenses, a brick and mortar practice has. So you really, really have to spend time and money on marketing. So, well, what's your budget like?
To start, probably 8 to 10,000.
More
That's
than
not much.
enough.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's more than enough. Yeah. I mean, $10,000, you can do a lot of damage with $10,000.
That's the high end, probably 8.
Sure. Okay. Anywhere between 8 to 10,000. You can do a lot of damage with that. So you figure getting everything up and running, a nice website, your LLCs, and just all that basic stuff, maybe $2,000. And that's for a nice website. All right. So, a couple $1,000 just to get it up and running, just to get it, there. And then you'll have $5,000 to $6,000 to play around with marketing. I mean, that's more than enough. That'll easily get you through for 3 months.
Okay.
So if I was you, I'd probably budget like $1,500 a month at first.
Okay.
Start low and slow with it and kind of figure out what works and what doesn't. That's really the biggest thing. You got to figure out what works and what doesn't when it comes to marketing.
Okay.
So, maybe like $500 on Google ads or something, and then maybe $500 on Facebook ads, and then maybe $500 on some local marketing or something. Maybe you could try like the restaurants or whatever. Like, it's just basically where are your patients at and try to get in front of their faces.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, $8,000 is a healthy budget. Yeah.
And then in terms of like an EHR, like I can totally write that off under the LLC because that's an operating expense, correct?
Anything that you use for business, you write off.
And that includes my malpractice, you said.
Oh, absolutely. Everything.
Okay.
Yeah. You get a business credit card or a business debit card or whatever, and you put everything that you run through your business through that.
Okay. I do have a question now that we're talking about that. I saw something that if you purchase anything for an LLC, you should always sign any contract under the LLC's name with your name as like the owner or the president. Is that correct?
Well, sure. So like if you're going to get like a cell phone for your business, yeah, it would be titled under the LLC's name.
Do you have to write yourself as a blah, 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 like the president or?
Yeah. I mean, they're going to require a co-signer typically, which will be you as the president owner.
Okay.
Get a business credit card if you can, just because, it's an easy way to get points. Chase Sapphire or Capital One Sparks. Those are 2 pretty cool business cards. You can rack up a lot of miles on it because business expenses never end. You'll always have business expenses. So you might as well get some free points for it and fly for free from time to time.
It was Chase Sapphire. What was the other one too, please?
Oh, Capital One Sparks. That's the one I use. I like that one. Super simple points. And the Capital One portal for redeeming the points for travel and whatnot is super easy. It's super clean and simple. So like I just flew out to North Carolina to close on a rental property. And I just used the points from my Capital One Sparks card. I flew first class for free. I booked it through the Capital One. Yeah, it was super easy and it cost me nothing.
Is it expensive? Do you have to pay an annual fee for this? Or is it free or?
Oh, I think it's like $50 or something.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's nothing. Totally worth it though. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you got the basics down. I think you should just take that, how to start a psychiatric clinic course and go through it just step by step. And it'll literally be everything there for you. I mean, it has all the HIPAA forms, the policies, procedures, everything you need right there. And I think that and it's a business expense, write it off. Okay.
So I need to start my LLC first before I take your course.
Right, exactly. So once you get off the phone, call someone locally or go on Google and get that LLC form. It takes a week, if that at most.
Okay.
Get that LLC, get the business card or credit card or whatever, go to the bank, open up an account, and then you're ready to rock and roll. Then you got it.
So I'm just going to roll up the sleeves, muster up the courage, and just do it.
That's exactly it. It's just saying screw it and doing it. You know what I mean? Like you just
Okay.
got to just pull the trigger and just go, just do it. And then what happens is that once you do one thing, it leads to another thing, and then another thing, and another thing, and another thing. And then before you know it, you have a fully functioning business. Action leads to more action. Inaction leads to more inaction. If you're inactive and just sitting around all the time, you're never going to get shit done, right? You start the LLC, then you get the bank account, then you get the credit card, then you get a website, and it's just like one thing after another. And then a month later, you got a business.
My first purchase is going to be a course.
Well, there you go.
My
And it's a
Capital
tax
One
write-off.
Sparks credit card.
Yeah, on your car. Yeah, there you go. And then you're going to earn like 800 points, and yeah, you get some CEU too, and you just write it off. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Okay.
Or if you can get your employer to reimburse you for it, even better.
I could actually finagle that possibly. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. If you got some CE reimbursement, hell with it. Use that.
And you're ANCC certified and all that, the courses?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The CE,
Nice.
yeah, okay. CE applies to ANCC, AANP, and E Board of Nursing. I mean, it's fully credentialed CE. So.
Right. Okay. Well, you've been really helpful, and best of luck. I mean, this is great.
Cool. Well, I like to end the episode with you asking me a question. Like, do you have anything that's been curious to you about me that you would like to ask?
What made you go into this, going into helping other people start businesses? That's an open-ended question.
I mean, multiple reasons. I've kind of answered this question in a way in other episodes, I believe. But I think one reason was because I helped a friend start his practice, his business. And I was just like, I'm really good at this. And it was fun. I'm kind of passionate about it. And I got a knack for simplifying things, I guess. So yeah, I think it was one of the main reasons why. I think it was just, I'm good at it, and I like doing it. It's a pleasure helping people. It's kind of turned into a passion of mine, a weird passion, but yeah. So.
Do you have any business background, any business training, or just all solely nursing?
No, pretty much just nursing. I mean, I've always been kind of an entrepreneur hustler, but I never had like an official business. I don't have an MBA. I don't have a master's in healthcare administration or any of that nonsense. I read some books, talked to some people, and just did it.
Oh, good for you.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. And then a few years later, I've just self-taught, just teaching everyone how to do it. I mean, I think getting an MBA and a degree in it is really unnecessary. It's a waste of time.
Money. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk to most business owners, like most millionaire, billionaire business owners do not have any education in business at all. Most of them.
More experience, more life experience.
It's life experience and just doing it. Correct. Right. Just because you have an MBA doesn't mean anything. You still have to take action. You still have to take the risk, and you still have to get out there and do it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, it was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure talking to you as well. I appreciate your time and help. Really do. All
right. You are very welcome. You take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank you. Bye. All right. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode with Molly. I think the big point here is to keep things simple, right? Keep things simple, stupid. It's really, really simple. There's no reason why you should complicate starting a business. It's really just a set of steps. You knock out one thing at a time, and then you're done. When you start going down rabbit holes and start reading a bunch of articles, start talking with other people and those kinds of things, you just end up becoming paralyzed, right? Analysis paralysis, basically. So you really should just try to keep things as simple as possible. Start from the bottom and work your way up. Like in our courses, I go through this step by step. Start with this, go to this, go to this, go to that, okay? You follow the steps. The LLC, the bottom is that foundation, okay? You just need that legal entity. You know what service you're going to provide, opening a bank account up, getting a credit card, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just do one thing at a time, right? And if you do it like that, it keeps it very simple. When you start bouncing around, going all over the place, doing one thing over here, working on your website and then working on some bookkeeping and then working on a brochure and just going all over the place, you're never going to get anything done. So just try to keep this as simple as possible, okay? Starting a business is really not that difficult. All right. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. Talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye. Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and/or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes